In the heart of a land where the rivers whispered secrets to the trees and the earth throbbed with ancient wisdom, there was a village called Umeani. This village, nestled between two great hills, was known for many things: its fertile farmlands, its elaborate festivals, and most of all, its women. The women of Umeani were famous across the neighboring villages for their size. It was believed that a woman's beauty was in her fullness, her curves a sign of prosperity, fertility, and strength. From childhood, every girl was fed with the richest soups, the thickest yam porridge, and the most nutritious palm oil dishes to ensure she grew into the standard of beauty that had been upheld for generations. But fate had a peculiar sense of humor. On a rainy night, under the watchful eyes of the ancestors, a woman named Nwaneoma gave birth to a baby girl. The child, named Adaugo, was different from the moment she came into the world. Unlike the other babies, who were plump and round, Adaugo was small, too small. The midwives exchanged worried glances, and the elder women shook their heads. "She is too tiny," one of them whispered. "Give her time," another said. "She will grow." But Adaugo did not grow as expected. While other children in the village grew chubby from the heavy meals their mothers fed them, Adaugo remained slender, her limbs delicate, her body refusing to take on the weight that was expected of a Umeani woman. Her mother, Nwaneoma, did everything she could. She cooked the thicker soups and forced Adaugo to eat more than she could handle, but no matter how much food she consumed, her body remained the same. Hello viewers. How are you doing today? Hope you are enjoying the video. Please make sure you watch till end. Like and comment your thoughts below in the comment section. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more of this captivating story. Stay tuned. "She is cursed," some villagers began to whisper. "Perhaps the gods have marked her for something unusual," said others. As the years passed, Adaugo became a subject of gossip. Other girls teased her, calling her names like Nwanko, the dry one. Mothers used her as an example, warning their daughters, "Eat your food, or you will end up like Adaugo." Despite it all, Adaugo was strong-willed. She learned to ignore the whispers, to walk with confidence even when others laughed. She knew she was different, but she also knew that her difference did not make her weak. But fate, as always, had its own plans. One day, an event occurred that changed everything. Adaugo had long since accepted that she was different, but the village of Umeani would never let her forget. As she grew into a young woman, her slim frame became even more noticeable. While other girls her age were preparing for marriage, boasting of suitors who admired their round figures, Adaugo had none. "Who will marry a woman with no flesh?" women would mutter as she passed. Her mother, Nwaneoma, never stopped trying. She would prepare large bowls of pounded yam, thick with egusi soup, and sit with Adaugo, watching her eat. "Just a little more," she would plead. "At least let your hips widen, my daughter." Adaugo would try, for her mother's sake, but she never changed. Then, one fateful day, a visitor arrived in Umeani. The village square was filled with excitement when news spread that a great wrestling competition would be held. Warriors from neighboring villages had come to challenge Umeani's strongest men. The winner would be rewarded with riches and the honor of the land. Adaugo, like many others, went to watch. She sat among the women, her sharp eyes observing the wrestlers as they clashed in the dust. The strongest warrior from Umeani, Obina, had defeated 3 challengers, but then a new opponent stepped forward. He was a giant of a man, broad-shouldered and powerful. His name was Esidemeli, and he had never been defeated. The crowd fell silent as the match began. Obinna fought with skill, but Esidemele was too strong. Within moments, he lifted Obinna and slammed him into the ground. The village gasped. "No one can defeat him," people murmured. The elders looked at one another. Umeani's honor was at stake. If no one could defeat Esidemele, it would bring shame to their village. Then, to everyone's shock, Adaugo rose from her seat. "I will fight him," she said. The village erupted into laughter. "You," someone scoffed. "You, a woman, and a slim one at that." Even Esidemele grinned. This must be a joke. But Adaugo's eyes were steady. She stepped forward, unafraid. "Let her try," one of the elders finally said, curiosity in his voice. The match was set. Adaugo stood before Esidemele, looking impossibly small compared to him. The entire village watched, expecting her to be thrown down within seconds. Then the fight began. What happened next would be remembered for generations. The village square was silent. Every pair of eyes was locked on Adaugo, the slim girl who dared to challenge the undefeated warrior, Esidemele. Esidemele smirked, towering over her. "You should run home, little one," he said, his voice thick with amusement. "I do not fight weaklings." Adaugo did not move. Her feet were firmly planted, her sharp eyes locked onto his. The elder raised his hand, then dropped it. "Begin." Esidemele lunged forward, expecting to grab Adaugo and throw her down easily. But something unexpected happened. Adaugo moved like the wind. She ducked, spinning out of his reach. The crowd gasped. Esidemele turned, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. He attacked again, but Adaugo slipped past him once more. "Fight me properly," he growled, frustration creeping into his voice. And then, in a movement too fast for the eye to catch, Adaugo struck. She delivered a sharp blow to the side of his knee. Esidemele staggered, caught off guard. Before he could regain his balance, she swept her leg under his, sending him crashing to the ground. The village erupted into chaos. "Did you see that?" She brought him down. Esidemele scrambled to his feet, his face dark with anger. He rushed at Adaugo with full force. This time, he managed to grab her wrist. Gasps filled the air. But Adaugo twisted her body in an unexpected way, slipping out of his grip. Before he could react, she leaped onto his back, wrapping her legs around his torso. She squeezed. Esidemele roared in pain. He stumbled forward, trying to shake her off, but Adaugo held firm, tightening her grip around his neck with her arms. His movements became sluggish. The mighty Esidemele was losing strength. With one final effort, Adaugo shifted her weight, twisting his body. He lost his footing and fell face first into the dust. Silence. Then, cheers. Umeani erupted into celebration. She won. The slim girl defeated him. The elders, who had doubted her, were now nodding in amazement. Even the strongest warriors of Umeani looked at Adaugo with new respect. Esidemele lay on the ground, panting. He turned his head to look at her, his face no longer mocking. Instead, he nodded. "You are stronger than you look," he admitted. Adaugo said nothing. She simply walked away, leaving the village to talk. That night, as she sat outside her mother's hut, Nwanyoma came to her, eyes filled with tears. You have done what no one believed was possible. Adaugo looked at her mother, then at the stars above. Maybe being different is not a curse after all. But fate was not done with her yet. Her victory had caught the attention of someone she never expected. And it would change her life forever. The morning after Adaugo's victory, Umeani was still buzzing with excitement. Everywhere she went, people whispered her name. The slim girl who defeated Esidemele. She fights like a spirit. Could the gods have blessed her with hidden power? For the first time in her life, the stares she received were not of mockery, but of awe. Even the girls who once ridiculed her now looked at her with envy. The young men who had ignored her suddenly found reasons to greet her. Her mother, Nwanyoma, was the happiest of all. She cooked a special meal, beaming with pride as she set a steaming bowl of yam porridge before Adaugo. "The whole village speaks your name," she said. "Perhaps now, suitors will come." But Adaugo barely heard her. Something deep inside told her that her life was about to change in ways she could not yet understand. And she was right. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, a stranger arrived in Umeani. He was an older man, tall and regal, his flowing robe embroidered with symbols of power. He walked with the confidence of a man used to authority. Beside him was a younger man, his apprentice, carrying a leather pouch slung across his chest. The moment they stepped into the village, the elders were summoned. Villagers gathered in the square, whispering among themselves. "Who is he? He looks important." The elder, Obi, stepped forward. "Stranger, who are you, and what brings you to Umeani?" The man's deep voice carried across the square. "I am Daik, the royal combat instructor of the great kingdom of Nri." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The kingdom of Nri was vast and powerful, its warriors feared across the land. A visitor from such a place was no ordinary traveler. "I come with a message from my king," Daik continued. Word of a girl with an unusual gift has reached his ears. He turned and his sharp gaze landed on Adaugo. A girl who defeated a mighty warrior using skill, not strength. The crowd parted, eyes shifting toward Adaugo. Her heartbeat quickened. Daik studied her for a long moment. "Tell me, girl, do you know what you are?" Adaugo met his gaze, confused. "I am Adaugo of Umeani." The old man shook his head. "No. You are something much greater. Your body is not weak, it is built for speed, precision, and agility. You were born for a different kind of battle." A tense silence filled the air. Then he spoke the words that would change her life forever. "The king wishes for you to come to Nri. To be trained as a warrior." The village exploded into chaos. The village square erupted in disbelief. A woman. A warrior. Such a thing has never been heard of. This must be a joke. The elders whispered among themselves, shaking their heads. The women clutched their wrappers tightly, exchanging uneasy glances. The men scoffed, some laughing outright. Adaugo stood frozen, her heart pounding. The idea of leaving Umeani had never crossed her mind. She had always been different, but now was she truly meant for something greater? Her mother, Nwanyoma, pushed through the crowd, eyes wide with shock. "My daughter is not a warrior," she cried. "She is a woman. She must marry, bear children, and bring honor to her family, not fight in battles like a man." Daik remained calm. "Your daughter is no ordinary woman. She possesses a gift, one that cannot be wasted. Obi, the eldest of the village, cleared his throat. Dyke, we respect the great kingdom of NRI, but this is Umeani. Here, our women do not fight. The villagers murmured in agreement. Dyke smiled faintly. Tell me, wise elders, if a man had such talent, would you refuse him the chance to become great? Silence. The question lingered, heavy with truth. Nwanyoma turned to her daughter, desperation in her eyes. Adaugo, tell them. Tell them you will not go. All eyes fell on Adaugo. Her throat was dry, her thoughts a whirlwind. This was her chance, her only chance, to be more than the girl everyone had mocked, more than a woman expected to fit into a mold that never suited her. She took a deep breath. I will go. The entire village gasped. Her mother clutched her chest. No. I forbid it. Adaugo turned to her, pain in her eyes. Mama, I love you, but I have never belonged here. I have spent my life being told I was not like the other women. Now I finally understand why. Tears slipped down Nonioma's cheeks. But what of your future? Your home? Your family? Adaugo reached for her mother's hand. This is my path. I must follow it. The elders whispered among themselves once more, but the decision had already been made. The village could not force her to stay. Dyke nodded, approval in his gaze. We leave at dawn. And just like that, Adaugo's life in Umeani was over. That night, she lay awake, listening to the sounds of the village she had always known. Come morning, she would be stepping into a world far beyond anything she had ever imagined. But she had no idea that her journey would test her in ways she had never dreamed, and that fate had even greater challenges waiting for her. The first light of dawn painted the sky in shades of orange and pink as Adaugo stood at the edge of her village, her heart pounding with anticipation. The villagers had gathered to watch her leave, their faces a mix of curiosity, disbelief, and silent disapproval. Her mother, Nwanyoma, stood with red-rimmed eyes, her hands tightly gripping the edge of her wrapper. You do not have to do this, she whispered one last time. Adaugo swallowed hard, pain twisting in her chest. I do, Mama. Dyke, the royal combat instructor, watched the exchange in silence, his expression unreadable. His apprentice, a young man named Obina, adjusted the leather pouch across his chest and looked at Adaugo with mild curiosity. Obi, the oldest elder, stepped forward. Adaugo, you leave Umeani as a daughter of this land. Should you ever return, remember where you come from. Adaugo nodded, bowing in respect. Without another word, she turned and walked away. As she stepped beyond the borders of Umeani, the realization hit her, she was truly leaving everything behind. The only life she had ever known was now behind her. What lay ahead was a mystery. For hours, they traveled through dense forests and open plains. Dyke walked in long, powerful strides, never once looking back. Obina, the apprentice, glanced at Adaugo every now and then, as if assessing her. Finally, when they stopped to rest by a river, Obina chuckled. You're not what I expected. Adaugo raised an eyebrow. What did you expect? A frightened girl who would turn back before we reached the first river, he said, smirking. Most girls would rather marry than fight. Adaugo scooped water into her hands and drank. I am not most girls. Dyke, who had been silent the entire journey, finally spoke. Good. Because the road ahead will not be easy. Adaugo met his gaze. I do not want easy. I want to be strong. A flicker of approval crossed his face. Then let us continue. As they resumed their journey, Adaugo felt a strange sense of purpose settle within her. She had no idea what awaited her in the great kingdom of NRI, but she knew one thing for certain: there was no turning back now. For 3 days, Adaugo, Dike, and Obinna journeyed through thick forest, across rushing rivers, and over vast grasslands. Each night, they slept under the open sky, with only the sounds of crickets and distant howls to accompany them. By the morning of the 4th day, Adaugo's feet ached, and hunger gnawed at her belly, but she refused to complain. She knew that if she showed any weakness, Dike would take it as a sign that she was not ready for the life she had chosen. Finally, as they climbed over a steep hill, a breathtaking sight stretched before them, the vast training ground, filled with warriors. Some were wrestling, others practicing with spears and swords, while a group of archers aimed at distant targets. At the far end of the field stood a towering structure with walls built of thick logs. This is the king's training camp, Dike said. The place where the strongest warriors of NRI are forged. Adaugo's heart pounded. This was it, the beginning of her new life. As they entered, heads turned. Warriors paused in their training, staring in open disbelief at the girl who had just walked into their midst. A woman, one of them muttered. This must be a mistake, another scoffed. Adaugo ignored them. She had spent her whole life being doubted. This was nothing new. A deep voice called out from the center of the field. Dike, you return with something unexpected. A tall, muscular man with a scar running down his cheek stepped forward. His presence commanded respect. Adaugo could tell instantly that he was one of the top warriors. Dike nodded. Ugochukwu, meet Adaugo. She is the one who defeated Esidemali. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The name Esidemali carried weight. If this girl had truly bested him, she was no ordinary girl. Ugochukwu folded his arms, studying her. You do not look like a fighter. Adaugo met his gaze without flinching. Looks can be deceiving. A small smirk tugged at the corner of Ugochukwu's lips. Then prove it. He turned and signaled toward the warriors. Chijioke, step forward. A young man, tall and well-built, stepped into the training circle. He cracked his knuckles, clearly eager to test her. Adaugo took a deep breath. This was her first test. She stepped forward, ready. The fight began. A heavy silence settled over the training ground as Adaugo and Chijioke faced each other. Warriors gathered around, eager to see if this slim village girl truly belonged among them. Chijioke smirked, rolling his shoulders. I do not wish to hurt you, he said. You can step back now and save yourself the embarrassment. Adaugo tightened her stance. You should worry about yourself. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Dike raised his hand. Begin. Chijioke lunged first, aiming to grab her. But Adaugo had seen this move before. She ducked, spinning away just as he reached for her. Gasps. Chijioke turned quickly, narrowing his eyes. He swung his arm, trying to catch her off guard, but Adaugo moved like the wind. She dodged again, her movement swift and precise. The warriors murmured in surprise. She is fast, someone said. Chijioke growled in frustration. He charged again, this time with more force. Adaugo waited until the last moment, then sidestepped and hooked her foot behind his ankle. He stumbled. Before he could recover, Adaugo struck. She jumped onto his back, wrapping her legs around his torso and locking her arm around his neck. It was the same move she had used to defeat Ezidemele. Chijioke struggled, trying to shake her off. His hands clawed at her arm, but Adaugo held tight, squeezing just enough to weaken him. His movements slowed. His knees buckled. And then, with a final effort, Adaugo twisted her weight, sending them both crashing to the ground. But she landed on top, locking him in place. Chijioke panted, struggling for breath. Then, with a groan, he tapped his hand against the dirt in surrender. Silence. Then, cheers. The warriors erupted into shouts and applause. Even Ugochukwu, who had doubted her, nodded in approval. She fights with skill, not strength, he admitted. Adaugo stood, breathing heavily, her chest rising and falling with exhilaration. She had proven herself. Dike stepped forward. From today, Adaugo is one of us. A warrior. Her journey had only just begun. Adaugo stood victorious, but as the cheers echoed around her, a strange feeling settled in her chest. Was this truly what she wanted? She had proven herself, but the way the warriors looked at her now, it was not just admiration. There was something else. Something darker. Resentment. Chijioke wiped the dust from his face, his jaw clenched. You won this time, he muttered, his pride clearly wounded. Adaugo turned to him, expecting anger. Instead, she saw something else in his eyes. Not just frustration, but something deeper. Fear. That night, as she lay on a straw mat in her assigned sleeping quarters, whispers reached her ears. She is different. She fights like a spirit, not a human. Perhaps she is not one of us. Adaugo clenched her fist. No matter where she went, she would always be different. Just as sleep threatened to take her, she heard movement outside. The soft crunch of footsteps. Someone was there. She sat up slowly. Her heart pounded. A shadow passed by the small window. Then, silence. Her breath caught in her throat. Something was not right. The door creaked open. Adaugo sprang to her feet, ready. And then, just as she thought she would have to fight for her life, a familiar voice whispered in the darkness. We need to talk. It was Dike. And the look in his eyes told her that whatever he had to say would change everything. Adaugo's heart pounded as she stared at Dike. His face, usually unreadable, was filled with something she had never seen before, urgency. We need to talk, he repeated. Adaugo followed him out into the night. The training camp was quiet, the moon casting long shadows across the ground. Dike led her to a secluded spot near the riverbank, away from curious ears. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, steady. There's something you don't know about yourself, Adaugo. She frowned. What do you mean? Dike sighed, glancing at the water as if searching for the right words. You were never meant to live an ordinary life. Your body, your speed, your instincts, they are not accidents. They were given to you for a reason. Adaugo felt a strange chill. Given by who? Dike looked at her, his gaze sharp. By those who came before you. She blinked. I don't understand. Dike hesitated, then reached into his robe and pulled out a small leather pouch. He opened it and took out a delicate bronze pendant, one that bore the same strange markings as the embroidery on his robes. This belonged to your ancestor, a woman named Neka. Adaugo's breath caught. Neka. She was a warrior. The only female warrior to ever rise in the kingdom of Enorai's history. She was the best among them, unmatched in skill. But the world was not ready for her. The men feared her, the elders whispered that she was unnatural, and in the end, she vanished. Adaugo swallowed hard. Vanished. No one knows what happened to her. But before she disappeared, she left behind a prophecy that one day, another would be born like her. A girl, slim and fast, different from all others. And when that girl arrived, she would have to make a choice. Adaugo's entire body tensed. What choice? She whispered. Dyke studied her carefully. To stay and fight for a place in a world that rejects her, or to carve a new path, away from everything she has ever known. The weight of his words settled on her chest. All her life, she had fought to prove she belonged. She had battled doubt, ridicule, and isolation. And now, even here, where she thought she had finally found her place, there were whispers, fears, resentment. She was different. She would always be different. Adaugo closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. When she opened them, her mind was clear. I will not stay where I am not wanted, she said. Dyke nodded. Then you are ready. The next morning, Adaugo did not enter the training grounds. She did not bow before the elders of the camp. Instead, she took only what she needed and left, walking toward a destiny that was hers alone to shape. The villagers of Umeani would one day speak of the girl who was different. The one who was not meant to be like them. But they would never know the full truth. Adaugo was never meant to fit in. She was meant to be legendary. This story ultimately teaches self-acceptance, destiny, and the courage to walk one's own path. Finally, this story inspires viewers to embrace their uniqueness, reject limitations, and have the courage to pursue their destiny, even if it means walking alone. Wow! You made it to the end of this incredible story. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed every moment of Adaugo's journey and the powerful lesson it carries. What did you think about the story? Did you expect a twist? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you love this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories like this. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. Until next time, stay blessed and always remember, fate has a way of shaping our destinies in ways we never expect. See you in the next story. Love you.